Hey everybody, Full Moon Cat here with another Carrion Fields tutorial video. This time I'm going to be covering your very first training and practice sessions in the Adventures Academy. I do find that as a brand new player, training and practicing for the first time can be a pitfall, so let's go over it. One of the rooms in the Adventures Academy will be your guild. In this case we chose Assassin, so it's going to be the Assassin's Guild. Here you can both train and practice. If I type score, SC, I can see that I have 5 practice sessions and 3 training sessions to spend when I first create my character. What training sessions do is they will boost your stats. So I can spend a train on strength, for example, to get from 19 strength to 20 strength, if that's even possible for my race. So that's what trains do. They're for stat boosts. And then practices are for skill boosts. So if I type SK, I can see that I have a number of skills that I know at level 1, these ones. And then these are skills that I'm going to learn later in life as I progress through the game. And a practice session has to be done at your guild house. There are a number of guild houses around. Almost every city will have one for your class. And your trainer there can then train you in new skills, and you'll be using practice sessions for that. So when we did our character creation, I kind of covered intelligence and wisdom and how that feeds into the practice system. As a brand new character, level 1, you're going to want to have the highest intelligence you can possibly get before you spend even a single practice. So don't practice anything yet. We're going to focus on training. So type train without any arguments. And it'll show you the things that you're able to train. So in this case, I'm able to train my intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. You really want to focus on intelligence as a brand new level 1 character. Get that intelligence up as far as possible because, to reiterate here, when you do help intelligence, there's this chart. And you can see that right now I've got a 19 intelligence. If I were to spend a practice session at 19, I would get 45% in a skill. I can get it up to 21, and then I get 56% in a skill at a single practice. That doesn't really sound like much, but it does save you some time in the game. Instead of having to grind away at these skills to gain percentages after you've trained, it is important to be able to train them at a higher level. So anyway, let's go ahead and just train our intelligence up. So I'm going to train intelligence, and I'm just going to go ahead and max out my intelligence. Later on, once you learn how to pick up equipment and what it all does for you, you might find that you don't want to max out your intelligence right away, and that you instead want to boost that intelligence up with equipment, and you want to maybe use those trains on something else like constitution or something. And that's totally fine, but for now, as a brand new player, I would recommend right now just go ahead, get your intelligence up as far as you can get it before you spend your practice sessions. So that leaves me with 1 training session left, and I can use it on either wisdom, dexterity, constitution, or charisma. I would be tempted to spend it on wisdom for some characters, but let's look at the help wisdom file. Let's spell that correctly. Okay, so there's a table here for wisdom as well, and you can see that this is there's blocks of wisdom that get you different practices as you gain levels. So I'm already at 18. I can get to 21, so I'm in this range here. Oops. 18 to 21, and you can see that in that entire range I'm only going to gain 3 practices per level. So training wisdom for my character really isn't that important. Wisdom will also give you a certain amount of mana extra if it's a little bit higher when you gain levels, but for an assassin, I'm not really super concerned about mana either. So I think that 1 training session, what I'm actually going to spend it on is going to be my constitution. So that constitution will get from 18 to 19, it'll be maxed out. I don't have to worry about covering that with equipment to get the most hit points out of every level possible. All right, now if I look at my score, I can see that I've applied my training sessions. I've got 21 intelligence, I trained that up, and I've got my 19 constitution. If I type train again, even though I don't have any training sessions left, it'll show me what I still can train as I gain levels. And I've already maxed out my intelligence and constitution, which are things that are highly beneficial for new characters. You will gain more training sessions. Every 5 levels you'll gain a training session, so don't worry about these being below max. You can also boost these stats with equipment, and that'll be exactly the same as if you had trained them as far as when you practice at your trainer or you gain levels. So now that we've trained, let's go ahead and look at our practices. So if you type PR, that'll show you how many practice sessions you have left and what you can practice. The game will already start you out with 40% in whatever your main weapon is. So in this case, as an assassin, that's going to be my dagger. So if I type equipment, EQ, it'll show me that I am already wielding a dagger since I've already got 40% in it. That's probably a pretty good hint that I am going to be using that dagger, so I'm going to go ahead and practice my dagger. And that took me up to the maximum that I can possibly get. When it says you are learned at a skill, that means you cannot practice it again and gain more skill. The trainer can only train you up to 75%. To gain more percent in that skill, I will then have to use that skill out in the real world. So the more I use dagger, the higher the percent this is going to get until it eventually gets up to 100%, and I'm as good at dagger as I can ever possibly be. So that leaves me now with 4 practice sessions to spend on other things. Dodge is one of your pivotal defense skills. You'll definitely want to practice that if you have that available, so I'm going to go ahead and practice that. Spending 1 point gets me up to 56%. If I wanted to, I could leave it there. I don't necessarily have to train anything up to 75%. 56% would just make me less good at dodging than it would if it was at 75%, and it will still gain as I play the game. So as I dodge more, that skill gain will go up. Personally, I'm just going to go ahead and practice dodge again so I can get up to that 75% because dodge is just that important. I mean, it's going to make it a lot easier for me to fight in these lower levels against the NPCs that I'll be fighting. So it's a good idea to just have that up at the highest percentage I can. And then I'm also going to go ahead and practice this wheel kick, which is a special attack that assassins get. And I'll go ahead and practice that twice too, get it up to 75%. And now when I hit PR to look at my practices, I can see that I now have 0 practice sessions left. And I'm good at dodging and wheel kick and dagger. Those are good things to have as a level 1 character. Don't really worry that these are still at 1%. You can practice those later. If you look at your skill chart, you'll see that at level 1 I can practice all this stuff, and then there's not another thing for me to practice until level 3. So that means at level 2 I'm going to get practice sessions. I'm going to get those 3 practice sessions that my wisdom gives me, but I'm not going to learn any new skills. So at that point I could go back to my trainer here and I could practice sword if I wanted to, or staff or spear, hand to hand. It's entirely up to you what you spend those practices on. Just don't stress about having skills at 1%. You can go back in those levels where there's nothing, like level 6 also. You're not learning anything new. And you can spend those practice sessions on things. Another thing to keep in mind about training and practices is that some races will actually get so many practices that you're going to have excess practice sessions. If you accumulate 10 practice sessions, you can do what's called a gain convert. Let's look at the help file for that real quick. Gain convert and gain revert allows us to convert training to practices or practices to training. So if you do find yourself having an excess number of practice sessions, you can convert those practice sessions to trains and apply them to your stats a little bit earlier than most other characters. And if you find yourself hurting for practice sessions, which you often will with a lower intelligence race, you can actually convert those trains that you gain every 5 levels to 10 practice sessions to then apply to your skills. But you don't really have to stress about it too much. Just level up, have fun, and practice the skills that seem important to you at the time. In a future video, I'll probably go over training and practices in a little bit of a more granular fashion. But for now, as a new player, just be aware, train your intelligence before you ever spend a single practice session, and you'll be a lot happier with your early game experience.